Hello, this is DocPenguinDoc. Today I bring you the Slave 1. This ship is owned and operated by Mandalorian bounty hunter Boba Fett. It is a one-of-a-kind ship in the galaxy after Jango Fett destroyed all other Firespray 31 class crafts. As you can see, I've recreated it in Starmade, featuring a full interior as well as several rail features and systems from several parts of Star Wars media to best embody the Slave 1 as owned by Boba Fett. Without further ado, let's get into the tour. The Slave 1 has a very unique vertical design, which is why these winglets are attached to the sides. They help with stability. These winglets will always stay parallel to the ground. Of course, in Starmade this is limited to two positions, landing and flight. With the landing sequence remote, the winglets will swivel 90 degrees along with the cockpit, which was a modification made to the ship by Boba. The cockpit didn't swivel at all under Jango's ownership. There's a few things we can see here in this clip of the Slave 1 on Kamino in Episode 2. Right here you can see Boba standing on this boarding ramp of sorts, which is the next rail feature I'll show off. You can also see the landing sequence, as well as these swiveling laser cannons. Here we have another clip, this time of the Clone Wars, which shows off a bit of the boarding ramp as well as the front door. As we can see here, I did my best to do this boarding ramp type thing. It morphs between the shape of the hull and a smooth ramp for astronauts. And we also have the main entrance up there. The red light will turn on whenever it's open, and it'll turn off when it's closed. Here we can see the Slave 1 landing in live action for the first time. It doesn't really have anything to do with any rail features, but I just thought it was neat to see what it looks like when it is landing, the sort of motion that it makes. Here in this graphic, we can see the rotating pilot seat, which we showed off earlier, but also the next rail feature, this ion cannon, which is hidden in the ship. It doesn't actually have an on-screen appearance, but here we are. This is the ion cannon. It just pops in and out, roughly in the area it's shown on the Incredible cross-section book. This clip doesn't show any rail features. It just shows more of the movement profile of the Slave 1, as well as showing off these laser cannons. My actual rapid-fire cannons are mounted at the bottom near the turrets, and instead where these cannons are shown is where my ion cannon is located. But again, there are differences between Boba and Jango's Slave 1. Also shown in this battle between Jango and Obi-Wan is this concealed missile launcher. This is where I have my heat-seeking missiles mounted and my Slave 1, as we can see here. Of course, mine are slightly different in that they only fire, or I should say they fire 10 at a time instead of just one. While technically the Slave 1 is listed as having an escape pod, and Boba did technically use it in Legends before escaping the Slave 1 and switching to the Slave 3 as his main ship, he's never had one in canon, and the appearances of it in Legends are pretty slim. But nonetheless, I have included it on the ship. I don't really know where it was supposed to be, but here it is, right in the front. Last but not least, on our list of rail features, we have a USD. Sort of, anyway. As we can see here in Clone Wars, what in all other incarnations of the Slave 1 appeared to be some sort of antenna dish is now a dock that they used with that escape pod. And so for the sake of inclusion, I put it on my Slave 1 as well. It still looks like an antenna dish from the outside, but functions kind of as much as it could like an extending USD. Before we get into the interior section of this tour, I just wanted to point out this, or just show you this graphic here of the Slave 1 cross-section book. Basically, this is what I based most of the interior off of. So right here we can see the swiveling cockpit chairs. Here we have some prisoner cells. And then up above that room is Boba's bunk. And here's sort of an entranceway. You can kind of see the ramp that pivots. But yeah, this graphic, you can just pause and look at it, read it if you want. This is basically what I based most of it off of, including some of the locations of various weapons, etc. After the past couple of minutes of just me throwing clips at you of the Slave 1 and sort of what it does, what it looks like and all that in the movies and shows, finally here to show you what it looks like up close and personal in Starmade anyway. So this is just sort of a docking platform I threw together in a couple seconds, but this is what it looks like from down here in first person perspective. A bit big, but that's just kind of how Starmade scale is. We have the ramp. I do want to say it's kind of close to 1-to-1 anyway, as close as it could be anyway, with being functional. This button right here does the boarding ramp. Obviously, if you're just trying to walk up this as it is, you'd have to jump because it's pretty tall. So this just lets you walk up. This button does the same thing, just closes it up. This button right here opens the door. You can see while it's closed, there's like the white light. Turns red, white, red, white. So yeah, that's the main door. As you saw in that image, there's those prisoner cells. There's Boba's room right here. Got the swiveling cockpit. Boba's chair up there. Pretty much sums up the entire interior. There's really not a whole lot. It's a pretty small ship. But nonetheless, here's the prisoner cells. We got buttons to do all the doors. And this gravity block. There's one on both sides. You just use it. Plop right into the cell. You can do it for any of these cells. Just gonna close yourself in. Hop back to that gravity. Just to explain the gravity real quick. This one right here is for staying in the central main hull of the ship, I guess. This one right here, this is the main gravity you want to use. This one will swivel with the ship depending if it's in horizontal mode, like right now with the chairs, or when everything swivels, this gravity block will swivel with it, and then it will be vertical. But if for some reason you're just staying in the main hold, you want to use that gravity. There's also gravity over here for the dock up there, but there's not really any reason to use that unless you're just standing at the dock the whole time. Climbing up that ladder in the main room, we have Boba's room. We've got his bed, the main cargo for the ship, the faction block, and another gravity because when you leave the escape pod, you'll lose gravity when you come back. So you want to have that so you can get back down here. So here is the passenger seats. You climb up this ladder, so to speak, and you're in Boba's chair. Make sure you're in that gravity. There we go. Here we have buttons for the landing sequence, the front door and ramp. Spin around. Now our gravity is aligned this way. And you can climb across this sort of ladder, climb up here. And here we have the dock. Right now we're docked to the floor, so that's not going to work. But I will show that in a bit. But climbing over to the chair again, you can swivel back. We just have a little systems readout of the engines, hyperdrive, sensor mask, which is the radar jamming, the laser cannons, ion cannon, concussion missile, heat seekers, and seismic charges. It says depleted. It should work. I've just never actually tested it. I don't really know how mines work in Starmade, but it should work. But coming back down, underneath the passenger seats, we have all these computers. These are all the various systems of the Slave One, all the computers. And yeah, it's pretty much all of the ship. There's really not a whole lot going on here. But if we come back out, I will jump down into another ship, which is down below. Can actually probably just hop. Oh, maybe not. But right down here, we have another one. This one is docked right here, but of course it's not actually docked. There's actually a pickup rail down there to make it look like it's docked. So while it's shaped like a USD, it doesn't actually function like a USD because simply the limitations of how rail dockers work, since that dock has to extend. Yeah, it just doesn't necessarily work. But right here you can see the doors. And then you can bring it back in, extend it out, open the doors, pretty much how it goes. As you can see here, there's the ladder that you'd sort of climb down, climb across here to the chair. Actually, oh, not right. There we go. So yeah, climb down, climb across, climb there. There's ladders everywhere. You can probably figure it out. Or since it's Starmade, you just jump. You'll probably make it. But yeah, that's all I really needed to show you in this one, is how it docks to the side there. But now we can jump into this one over here and take a look at the actual weapons. But first, the logical notes. Obviously, we've got they're all in order of what you saw in the beginning half of this video. Landing sequence, which is the rotating of everything. Then we've got the front door, ramp, beam cannon, missiles, and then we can close it all back up. And we've also got the escape pod. I won't shake it off, but you know what it does. We also have Millennium Falcon here, just kind of for scale. Rotate back. Just get a picture of what they look like together, scale-wise. And recenter. We'll take a look at the reactor first, actually. As you can see, we have base enhancement. We have jump auto charge, so nothing too fancy, because the main thing is the stealth chamber. So it's permanent duration, maximum strength, and we've got jammer and anti-lock-on. So that is the sensor mask, basically, which I assume has something to do with this dish right here. Not very confident. I don't know exactly. But we can take a look at the bottom row here. The first hotbar is all your weapons and systems and stuff. So we have this basic cannon. It's just rapid fire. Next up is the ion cannon. So that one's a beam, so it's a slower recharge, but it should do more shield damage. I think that's what EM effect does. And next up we have which one is this? This is the lock-on missile. It has pretty decent recharge, but there's only a capacity of 10, so you want to shoot off the lock-on, then shoot off these heat seekers, because you'll run out of capacity. But it'll refill if you do it in that order. We also have the mine layer. I don't know how to use them necessarily, never tried, but it should come out right here where the seismic charges do. I'll just play a clip. I couldn't include those doors on the side just because there's not enough space on the inside. That explosion, of course, is very satisfying. I doubt whatever it sounds like in Starmade is quite as nice. There's also a whole magazine in there, so there's multiple bombs, not just one, which is why you can store multiple in Starmade. Very destructive. But besides the seismic charges, we have the tractor beam right here. This only has 450 tractor power. It's not crazy. I mean, I don't really see many people use tractor beams, but I'm sure it works fine. This is the cloaker, basically. And then we have a jump drive. If you're shooting off everything you have in your arsenal, you'll go slightly over 100. And it'll drain about halfway. Let's see. Yep. Halfway, then you just let it recharge for a second and you're all good. So it'll, yeah, I'm definitely pushing the reactor to max in this thing right here. So I mean, a lot of space is taken up by the logic and the interior, but for a ship of this size, I think it's pretty good systems-wise. Not defensively, but offensively or whatever. Just to shoot the Millennium Falcon for the sake of it. You can see it drains the shields kind of slowly, like 1% per second. And then so this is with 31,000 shields. I don't know what the recharge is. But with the EM, it does 20 straight away. By the time it recharges, the Falcon might be full again, but so yeah, just shoot it, keep it down with this, and you should be able to bust shields pretty quickly with the Ships of similar size, anyway, I should say. The missile doesn't do too much. Actually, we can just look at the stats. That'd be easier. Cannons. 325 DPS for the rapid fire cannons. Ion cannons. 622. The missile does 1803 per shot, the lock-on missile. The heat-seeking missiles do 613, and they'll shoot up to 10 because that's how much capacity we have. Tractor power is 450, and that's pretty much it. Almost forgot to show it, but let me just show the build mode stats. General, got the height, the mass of 628, length, width. Structure, got the reactor HP, power, 264 for the reactor size, pretty much squeezed as much as I could in there. Thrusters, 3.2 thrust to mass ratio, 353.8 max speed. Shields, we got one group, about 4,000 capacity, 70 recharge. Weapons, 10 capacity there, and the reload looks like it's 12 seconds. Docks, 21 entities, no turrets. The rail docker, as you saw, is on the back right there. So it'll need a specialized port in most cases because the USD up above doesn't properly function without just how rail dockers can't be attached to moving parts like that. But I believe that is pretty much all for the Slave 1. In the future, I do hope to do Django's variant with the stationary cockpit and the overhauled paint scheme. There's also a Hondo Anaka version with the pirate skull right there. Hondo is basically just a sort of like Captain Jack Sparrow of Star Wars. He had the Slave 1 for a period of time. But that's pretty much what the future of the ship looks like. Otherwise, I'm basically calling it done. It was definitely fun to build, and I hope to see more of the Slave 1 in the future in Star Wars. As we can see from recent events, it's definitely looking like it might become a bit more prominent, so that'll be exciting. But with that, that was my shipyard showcase, or whatever I call this, for the Slave 1. I hope to get a video out for the Tanev soon as well, the CR90 Corvette. It just takes quite a while to find all the clips and stuff, so we'll see. With that, see ya.